Hey, welcome back to the Gilbertson Aero Factory. Today is Thursday, the 22nd of January. It's about 1 or 1:30 in the afternoon. This next build session is going to be like the last ones have been, where it's going to be interrupted by life and work. So it'll be several small build sessions probably when this video is done. You might be able to tell that I have the flap. This is the right wing. Now the right flap sitting up here, it's really just sitting up here. It's time to get these things mounted up, and the instructions are really, I think they say figure it out. They're not very explicit. There's some instruction on how you might want to configure the piano hinge if you want to use a single long pin or a split pin, but other than that, you're really left to the plans and just looking at measurements like the gap between the aileron and the flap, etc. So that's what I'm going to be working on. Yeah, so it's going to go in pieces. I've got some interesting things happening with that. I'll explain more of that when we get into what Tim calls the voiceover part. But I did want to give a shout out to some friends of mine, not sponsored by anyone, but over here in the Houston, north of Houston, East Texas area, a cool little company called Giving Grounds Coffee. It's a nonprofit coffee company, and I think they cycle through many different charities, other nonprofits to donate proceeds to, trying to build community here. So big fans of them, big fans of their coffee. I mean, it is, as they say, daggum good coffee. Anyways, Giving Grounds Coffee, I'll put maybe a QR code up here somewhere. I'll put a link in the description. You should support them. I do. Other than that, maybe you want to support me. Again, not sponsored by AG1 or anybody else. Don't want to be. But it is coming that time of year when people start thinking about taxes and stuff. And so if you don't know, now you do. G2 Advisory Group, that's my company. We provide bookkeeping and fractional CFO services for small businesses. So if you're getting chased out the door by your CPA because your books are a mess, give us a call. That's this, and we'll get you hooked up. But for now, let's build an airplane.
Okay, it's time for that voiceover part. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we get deeper into this, but there's a fair amount of hand-wringing that goes on in trying to get the flap mounted. So what I'm doing first is clecoing on the bottom skins, and they have been sitting for a long time. You can't really see it here. The camera doesn't pick it up very well from this distance, but this one's got a little bit of splotchy little spots of surface corrosion on it. It was sitting on the bottom shelf. It was the bottom layer on the bottom shelf on top of some carpet, and there's probably some moisture that got trapped in the carpet just because of the local climate. So that is something that will obviously, it'll be taken care of when it gets time for prep for painting, but kind of, yeah. Well, you never like to see it, but it's not really a big deal. It's just a thing. So I thought I would call it out. So you'll notice, if you're paying attention, the very top row of clecos, the one that I was just doing right there, that's where the bottom skins attach to the flap brace. And this is the problem with trying to get the flap mounted is the flap attaches with the piano hinge. The part of the piano hinge it's going to be attached to the bottom skin and flap brace sandwich doesn't have any holes in it. You have to use the flap brace and the bottom skin to match drill it. And they don't want, those two pieces don't want to stay really close to each other unless they have clecos holding them together, because that flap brace is kind of springy. And you would think, well, why can't you just use the flap brace to match drill the piano hinge and then later put the bottom skin on? Well, the problem is you need it all to be ultimately what will be the final position, because you're using the trailing edge of that aileron to determine where the trailing edge of the flap should be. And if you were just to just go straight off of the flap brace without any consideration for the skin itself, it wouldn't be a true position and you would have wasted your time. So you see me here. I popped it in there with those clecos in place because it's piano hinge. It'll fold out of the way.
Okay, welcome back to the Gilbertson Aero Factory. I know that we never left, but today is actually Sunday, February 1st. And yes, I do pronounce the first R in February. So it's been a week and a half almost since I started this video, and almost nothing has happened since then except for a ton of work. If you know anything about the work that I do with my company, this is really the busiest time of year, trying to make sure that everybody gets 1099s in time. So at any rate, I did do some stuff with my laser level over here to get these things lined up. I don't know if you saw it, but I have to do it again because somebody came over and I wanted to show them what I was doing, and I moved the wing around, and so that stuff didn't matter. But I didn't show you these things that I made. I printed up these 1/4-inch spacers that have these little nubs on here. The idea with the little nubs was that I could drop the spacer in here, keep a perfect 1/4-inch gap. I've got two of them, a lower one and an upper one. So I can maintain a perfect 1/4-inch gap while I'm getting this all squared in. As it turns out though, these nubs make sure that not only is the gap perfect, but the two surfaces are perfectly in line. So dumb luck, I suppose. So what I'm gonna do now is redo what I did a week and a half ago, which is use the laser level to shoot a line across here just to make sure that everything is kosher before I start drilling these holes. And this is a tough one. You really can't see it from here, but what we've got going on is we have the bottom skin. There are two separate skins here, bottom skin, and then we have the flap brace, which angles up from the aft spar and then obviously vertical to meet the bottom skin. And then we have the piano hinge. The piano hinge is not drilled, so we have to use the bottom skin and the flap brace to match drill the piano hinge, but we can't cleco every other hole of the skin to the flap brace to keep everything nice and tight because the piano hinge is behind it. So we do the best we can to clamp this in place. I have a little tiny cleco clamp right here. I have a trigger clamp right here that I shaved down one side of it to about a 1/2 inch width so that it would be able to fit in here. Again, the flap brace goes down at an angle like this, which means you have to have a clamp that is no wider than that half of the piano hinge. This is stressful. Everything's dead on and aligned, but because the skins are not clamped to the flap brace is springy and it wants to push up away from it. And so it's possible that when you try to match drill these holes, you're going to end up widening out one of these holes. They might not be dead alignment because the flap brace is springy. I think that I have it pretty good, and I think that as long as I get the first hole nice and clean and straight, we can go one at a time and we can chase it down the line and it'll all be good. I hope. Let's resume building an airplane.
Okay, back at it. A little more voiceover. You can kind of see those little spots on that inboard bottom skin in this view right here. So getting the laser level all situated, two things I can do here. I can set the level where it's auto leveling and then try to adjust the wing so that it is level. Or I can leave the wing any way I want it and choose a different setting on the level where I have the ability to cant it to accommodate whatever it is I'm working on. I I spent a little while doing that, and I just decided it was too hard to make the subtle adjustments. Like you can make a subtle adjustment, and then when you kind of tighten it down to lock it in position, you take the tension of your hand off the thing and it moves. So I don't know if we caught it here, but you probably can't see it actually because of where the camera is set, but on the off-screen right, which would be the outboard end of that wing. There you go. I've got some microfiber cloths and I'm just folding them different thicknesses to get what I want. Ultimately, what I got was exactly what I wanted. Although the flat portion there, it's hard to see that line because of the light. But trust me, it worked out. And it seems like a long time when you're doing it, but the reality is maybe 10 or 15 minutes until I'm satisfied with the orientation or the relationship between the line and the wing. And in the long run, that's really not a lot. I was able to make a couple last adjustments here, and that the transition from the flap to the aileron is just dead perfect. To be honest, when I first set it up, there was a slight difference, almost imperceptible, maybe less than a 64th of an inch, but I was able to fool around with it a little more and got it. You'll see me, there's the light on the drill, and you'll see me later with a flashlight. What I'm trying to do is look at the hole that I'm about to match drill and make sure that when I look through the bottom skin, I'm not seeing the edges of the hole of the flap brace. That tells me that it is centered and the flap brace isn't misaligned, so I'm not going to widen that hole out. From the beginning, the inboard portion right there where the flap and the aileron come together, that was the easiest one to get aligned closely, and I could squeeze. I have a kind of a shallow reach Cleco clamp. I could get that in there, and so I was confident if I could get that first hole drilled, I have the gap correct and the height of the flap in relation to the aileron. If that's all great, as long as I can get that first hole drilled, I can just chase it across one hole at a time, and that's how it played out, and it worked really well. When I get to maybe the last third, or actually let's say the last quarter of these holes that I'm drilling, you will see me with a flashlight in my mouth looking very carefully at those holes, because that's the part where the flap brace tends to be most springy. And so once I got down there, you might see me with my left hand reaching in and grabbing the flap brace, and I'm just moving it down a hair so that there's no chance, so that those two holes are perfectly lined up, and there's no chance of widening out the flap brace hole. So net result, it really turned out great, to be honest. I don't know why I would lie about that. I'll find a different phrase to use over and over again than to be honest. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It wasn't, while I did spend a lot of time scratching my head and worrying about it, ultimately it wasn't that big of a deal. So fingers crossed that when I move on to doing the same thing on the left wing and the famous or infamous left flap, it will go as swimmingly as this. Once this is done, when I get back into it, and both of these flaps have been drilled, then we'll kind of take that apart. I want to do some work on the bell crank bushing and the bell crank tube and try to get that action a little bit smoother. It's a little bit tighter than I want it to be. We'll do the work splitting the hinge on the flap thing there and start plumbing the wings and doing that stuff. So we're getting close to the end here, very close to the end. So we'll wrap it up. But I want to remind you, Tim and I did record a new podcast, episode 16, I think. So check that out, and we'll see you on the next one.